So it is. Now we could be careful in all that we can see.
Hello, everybody. Wasn't planning on streaming today. I'm making a video today. Wasn't planning on it. But a good friend of mine sent me something that got my ire up. You know, I always keep these by the computer these days because we, unfortunately, folks, everybody out there, however you identify, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary. First of all, thanks for watching, listening, and it has been. Secondly, we live in a world with just total disrespect for the thousands and thousands and thousands of years of rhetorical theory, rhetorical research, rhetorical work that's out there. Total disrespect for it. Particularly when it comes to the question of depolarization, which is, for better or for worse, the question of our day. I really don't think that this is, it's not a problem. It's a problem with not having the correct tools and practices and comfort with dealing with it. I think that instead, what people want to do is they want the facts to do the work for them. So, gosh, why is the sound so loud? I wonder what's going on with that. All right, we're going to turn it down a little bit. There we go. So, a friend of mine just sent me this. I think we'll just jump right into it. And I'll give you my concerns. Now, I haven't used this yet, nor do I plan to, but these Braver Angels people are really just something else. Look at this. It's apparently a website that's just launched. Welcome to the Depolarization Dojo. Practice constructive political dialogue with AI personas representing diverse viewpoints. Receive real-time coaching to improve your bridge building skills. There's so much here that I absolutely hate as a rhetorician. So much that I hate. And then the bottom, they get the idea of the dojo wrong. So let me unpack this and talk about it. Braver Angels is an organization that benefits from people thinking that there is a binary divide in political views. And that binary divide, they even call on their own website, the red-blue divide. In fact, you can see right here. Look at that. That's even in their emblem. They're so well branded to it. So Braver Angels assumes that there's this a priori thing called two parties, and that's not ever going to change or go away. And everyone's going to fit into one of those parties, and they're going to want to despise the other party. And so we need to be able to talk to each other so we can go to lunch, or we can have like dinner with Aunt Joan without getting angry. We can't be angry. Oh, no. Everybody has to be friends in Braver Angels world. So what they want to do is their idea of depolarization is to not upset anyone and still feel like you have made a difference by pushing forward your view. Now, there's nothing wrong with expressing your beliefs. Rhetoric is predicated differently. Rhetoric is predicated on the other people have to express their beliefs. But if you're expressing it to another human being, you need to adjust that belief in a way to where they could do something with it. Either accept it or reject it. Either change their feelings, belief, attitude is the big word Kenneth Burke uses. Or they could change their actions. They could stop doing something or start doing something. Very straightforward. That's rhetoric. Rhetoric doesn't appear here because Braver Angels doesn't want anything to change. They just do not. They want people to be nicer. They want people to express things in a way to be like, oh, I really appreciate that you spoke your truth. Like it's just so disgustingly liberal. I mean, again, this stream is not sponsored by Tums, but it probably should be with the way things are going in this country. I mean, I'm more upset about this than I am the contemporary political problems that we have. The political problems we face are the result of this kind of thinking, that there are people who will not change their mind. We just have to accept their beliefs and learn how to express our beliefs in a way to where we won't shout at each other. That's not rhetoric. That's not even politics. What are you doing, Braver Angels? This is like some kind of weird, Wonder Bread discourse made out of fake materials, basically inedible. Okay, let's break down this first sentence, and I'll show you why all rhetoricians should despise braver angels and should work to undo them. Practice constructive political dialogue. Okay, I'm okay with the idea of practice, but practicing constructive political dialogue is a very loaded sentence. What do you mean by constructive? I would think that it means that you make some progress. You either start altering your own views or you alter someone else's. It's not on the table for them. They don't want that. Political. What's political? For them, it's two-party. The two parties control what's political. All discourse in Braver Angels is controlled by the Democrat and Republican Party setup, the scene, the theatrics of this. They don't start with issues. They start with party. And that is a huge problem. We'll get to that a little bit more in a minute. AI personas. AI is not that sophisticated. It's not sophisticated enough for this. It could become more sophisticated. It could become sophisticated enough to really help you with debate and stuff, but not in this way. Because people do not hold these views. These views hold them. It's a way to think about it from rhetoric. And from the sophistic point of view, people are only grasping for these views because it's what's available. It's a very thin selection. Like if you went to the store and you wanted to buy something and there were only 3 brands and you choose the one that you're like, I guess this one I'll have to do. It would be wrong for me to say, oh, you like that brand. This is the huge mistake Braver Angels makes. Huge mistake. Because we don't like being Democrat or Republican. We have to be one because the store only has 2 brands. And those 2 parties have been given enormous power over the centuries, over time, over the generations of American politics to freeze out the possibility of any alternative party. And in discourse, and Braver Angels has bought completely into this foolishness that these are the only political positions available. AI personas, I don't know what that even means. AI is like a pretty basic neural net right now that can do kind of amazing things, but it only does these amazing things because we exist to each other through speech, through language. So when I read AI, it does feel like there's a person there. Representing diverse viewpoints, not really. More on that in a second. Receive real-time coaching. I hate this word coaching because it makes it seem like arguing or expressing your thoughts, expressing your ideas is like something that you have skill at, and skill can be coached. It's not. It's something that we all have to practice because I can tell you, if you spent 20 years working on being a better debater or a better arguer or a better speaker, you're still going to have day one level screw-ups in public address. And that's because it's not a skill. It is an art in that sense of the word techne, which I think that Socrates would disagree, but I do think rhetoric is kind of a techne, an art that has principles to it, principles that inform it. But those principles, you have to kind of figure out in the moment what will work and what won't. And it's not a skill like a sport. And coaching makes me think like, oh, you have some talent. Let me coach that talent out of you. It's not something innate. We all have to learn how to do this, and it's profoundly uncomfortable to learn how to argue and express yourself and feel comfortable doing that. Why is real time important? I don't understand that. I think in the debate world, and we misunderstand debate so incredibly well, but in the world where we had a good understanding of debate, we'd want the debate to finish no matter how bad it was. And then we could talk about it as a text. And that's where the value comes. It's like, okay, this is a complete text now. Everyone's had time to construct and rebut. Everyone's had time to question and answer. So let's think about how we feel at the end of that experience. Real time might not be that valuable. To improve your bridge building skills. This bridge building metaphor is terrible. Why would I want to build a bridge to somebody who has terrible ideas that are based on a narrative that is very singular in nature? So most arguments based on a narrative, a story. If somebody has a story that's based on a very myopic worldview, why would I want to drive over there or walk over to that island? Maybe you could say, well, we'll build the bridge to get them off that island. But that's not what Braver Angels wants to do. Go look at their website. It's very clear that they want to end the focus of public discourse on the changing of minds, or the practice of trying to change a mind, or change a feeling, or change a practice, or change a activity. And instead, what Braver Angels wants to do is prohibit anger, prohibit hostility, prohibit people getting mad at each other. This is part and parcel of debating and arguing. It's going to happen because people are going to slip up. People are going to become impatient. That's why you have to practice it, because you need to develop patience. You need to develop emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. And you need to realize that losing one argument or losing one exchange doesn't mean you've lost the entire opportunity you have to reach this person's heart and mind and get them to the right place. Okay, so let's look at this. You choose a persona. Select an AI conversation partner based on perspectives informed by the Pew research on political typologies. What is that based on? Well, it says beyond red versus blue, but everything they've done is lean Republican, lean Democrat. Why is this the metric? Why would this be the metric? Pew is very good at providing information, very good research place, but even they are blinded by this idea. Blinded by this idea that there are two parties. The two-party fiction is the real problem here. There are two parties that you have to choose from when you vote, but people are much, much more motivated by narratives, stories, experiences, and what they think a good world would look like. When you have this party thing, they tend to fall into it, and then naturally they want to defend their party because it's the only game in town for what they care about. So they'll go to bat for terrible parts of their party. Nobody goes out around saying, well, this part of the Republicans is really horrible, but I like this part. You can't do that nowadays. I think that's what polarization means, is that you have to be all in on your team. But I mean, this isn't going to help. This kind of typology. I think that instead they should have talked about values and what you want the world to look like and how we would get there, and then we'd have much more meaningful change. For a sophist, this is useful because it shows incredibly how deep people believe they have to be one or another party, or they're in orbit around these parties. They can't escape the gravitational field of a Republican or Democrat. But at the same time, as a sophist, it says, I can really make some moves and persuade people by cutting through all this and being like, here's what we really care about, and really hit these larger values or larger motives, and then change the attitude in the audience. So this is an interesting article. I read it. It's interesting, but it has the exact same flaw. No wonder Braver Angel cites it, because it has the exact same flaw, which is that everything is based on these two parties. Now, maybe rhetorically you might have a point and say people can't think outside two parties. That's a very different thing than building your entire discourse training, whatever this is, program, whatever this is, around the two parties is inevitable. There's no space to question that here. No space. Engage in authentic conversations. How can it be authentic when I can't reference the person's family? I can't reference the geography. I can't reference the towns we come from. I can't reference popular culture. These are the things the sophist needs to really get things moving, to show that the practices that we have are quite similar, and the things that we care about are quite similar. That's what a sophist does. Receive instant feedback on your dialogue techniques. What is a dialogue technique, Braver Angels? What is that? I'll do you one better, Braver Angels. What's a dialogue? Can you define that for me? You probably can't, because you think dialogue, conversation, constructive discourse, you think these are all synonyms. But since none of you read any of the scholarship in Braver Angels, you'd be surprised to know that there's a deep theoretical vein there on what dialogue is. In fact, there are multiple international organizations that study dialogue that you probably don't know about. I wish there were these organizations for debate, but there's not. The only game in town is the International Debating Community, which is kind of like college students who want to play a game. And then there's the American Debating Community, which is college students and some PhDs and professors who would rather play a game than write productively or research the thing that they're doing. They'd rather have, weekend warrior sports than seriously engage things. So that's different. Debate is in a much worse place than dialogue, but they're certainly not synonyms at all. Like, nobody wants to talk about dialogue when you talk to debate people. They don't want to talk about that. They might use it as a strategy. They might say, yeah, we're interested in dialogue across communities, but what they really want to do is have a debate. But they can't say that because they know debate comes with this negative connotation. In the martial arts world, a dojo is the place where you train, spar, and refine your skills before stepping into real-world challenges. This could not be a worse understanding of the etymology of dojo. I just can't imagine that if you looked it up in the most basic books about it, you would find that this understanding is repudiated 100%. A dojo is the place where you find honor and hubris, and you find humility, and you find that the only real challenge is yourself. And you find the dojo is more real than the real world. It has to be more serious than the real world, or in the real world you'll falter. It's not a warm-up place. It's a place where you find yourself and you anchor yourself to reality, and you realize that you're your biggest stumbling block. And like, I've written a bunch about martial arts and debate. And so much so, Mehdi Hassan cited me in his book. He's talking about debate judo. So I've written about debate judo. Mehdi Hassan cites me in his book, How to Win Every Argument. The way I think about it is it's about yourself first, and you thinking about putting yourself into these moves and how these moves change you, and how concentrating on these moves changes the composition of your mind and thought. Not, I'm going to learn how to kick someone in the face perfectly, and then I'm going to go out in the real world and do it, which is odd. This is so odd that this is their definition, because Braver Angels doesn't want anyone to win a debate. They don't want that. They think that's a negative thing. That's what they're trying to go against. So I don't know. I might have to try this out just out of curiosity, but there's so many problems with it. They don't understand. They don't have a functional theory or definition of debate. They don't have a functional or referenced, or they don't have any kind of position or posture on any theory of dialogue. They don't have a position or posture on AI and the limits of AI. They have absolutely no understanding of audience theory. For example, how would Ed Black and his theory of second persona even come into this? Like, teaching people about second persona as a inventional method is crucial. How could it be here? No, the audiences are pre-existing based on surveys that we did and social science investigations that we've done. The audience is pre-existing, and they're not going to change. They're always going to be Democrat, Republican, somewhere in there. That is the most, outside of maybe a Mr. Beast video on a debate challenge, there's no value to having that as a starting point. Audiences are not fixed. Audiences are constituted by the rhetor. And then the rhetor speaks to the audience they wish that their audience would become. Like, this is what happened on January 6th. This is why it's so hard to indict Trump on January 6th. Because he spoke to and willed into being an audience of people who, from the identities they brought to that rally, they would not have done what they did. But he spoke to them in a way that united them around a kernel of identification that allowed them to see themselves as these crusaders of justice who could break into the Capitol, who could harm police officers as the enemy, Capitol Police as the enemy, who wanted to harm elected representatives. But then when you look at the composition of the January 6th people, they're all from all different walks of life. This tool is not going to allow you to practice that kind of powerful constitution of the audience. We might all be very different, but I'm speaking to the people who are. And in mass, it's different than having a one-on-one. If this is a one-on-one thing, like, I'm going to convince Aunt Joan that Trump and Jesus should not be depicted hugging each other on Facebook images or whatever Aunt Joan publishes. That's an interpersonal communication question. And if you think it's bad the way they think about debate and dialogue and all that, and they have no theoretical basis, they have zero, even less, on interpersonal communication. No theory, no research, no investigation. Just some kind of a weird way to profit off of the two-party system and just say we should all be friends and just accept that we're going to be, like, depolarization for them is we have to accept a certain amount of polarization and pretend it's not there so we can go to lunch. That's the goal of Braver Angels, and I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I don't know why anybody would support that when we have over 2,000-year-old tradition of learning how to address diverse audiences and say, we should probably stop doing this because of what we already care about, because of what we already value. So I'm baffled by how they get funding, and I'm absolutely baffled why any rhetorician or rhetoric professor would ally with them. I mean, I guess money, but I don't want to be that cynical. I really don't see it. So maybe somebody could give a comment or respond to this video and explain what it is that they're doing for us. I think it's the subversion and the erasure of rhetoric. And I think, NCA is coming up. I would love to do a video on NCA. This video is already too long, 20 minutes. I thought I was going to talk for 10 minutes about this, but it gets my ire up. But NCA is so internal looking. Like the biggest, most controversial thing NCA's done in the last couple of years was the distinguished scholars fight, and then they weren't diverse enough. Executive committee has put out a list of resources for academic freedom. That's kind of valuable, but is the national office hiring lobbyists for this, for communication, to go to Capitol Hill, to go to the Hill? I don't know. We don't hear about that. They're certainly not advocating for us in the publishing industry. That's for sure. We learned about that not too long ago. But people still like to go to NCA because it's fun. It's a $4,000 trip to an expensive hotel bar to meet your old grad school friends. That's good, I guess. But I want to stay focused on this. I'll do an NCA video later for this. But here's where I want to leave this video. What advantage do you see Braver Angels bringing to rhetoric in the United States 2025? What do you see? I would love to hear what you see. I don't see it. I would love to be persuaded. Secondly, where's the theory? What are they basing their ideas of dialogue, constructive political engagement, debate? Where are they sourcing these ideas from? And what is depolarization and what is polarization? Where's the theory behind that? Where's the research behind what those things are? I mean, I see this as a very, very thin, poorly researched, pretty much an anti-intellectual attempt to eliminate debate because it's so icky. It makes us feel bad. People cry. People's feelings are hurt in debate. That's what I see. I could be wrong. I would love to come on here and make a video and say I'm wrong. I would love to hear what you think the value of these things are, particularly if you're interested in rhetoric and debate. So I don't see it. I don't support them. I wish they'd go away. I don't see them as brave at all. I see the avoidance angels or braver avoidance or something, but they really just want what many people have wanted, which is the collapsing of debate and argumentation into discussion where no one's feelings gets hurt. Everyone's in a safe space. No one can challenge someone else's opinion. The only thing you can say is, that was so brave that you expressed your opinion. You can't say, wow, that opinion is myopic, or wow, you really need to read more, which are hard things to hear, but vital if we want to preserve a democracy based on the people, not a democracy based on social media platform agendas or the agendas of two parties or the agendas of a media that's paid by two parties. We don't want that. That's not a democracy. So give me your thoughts. Would love to hear it. Thanks for listening. See ya. I really should get better with the timings on these things, huh?
So it is like a beacon for me, and all that we can see, the light that we can believe. So you see